a little video that will help you understand how much you mean to everyone.
The Funeral, 2018. Queen Latifah broke down in tears beside her mother's portrait. The entire church was drowning in sorrow. Yet there was one thing that left everyone stunned. The living single family was nowhere to be seen. Not a single face, not a single photo, not a single confirmation. The public was shocked. The internet exploded. Where were they when Latifah needed them most? Was that legendary friendship nothing more than a TV performance? Or were there cracks behind living single that were never revealed? Silence sometimes louder than sobs. And it was the silence on the day Rita Owens was laid to rest that turned a private funeral into a thunderous mystery. A mother, a teacher, a quiet hero. Rita Owens was not a Hollywood star. She never appeared on the silver screen or walked beneath the blinding flashes of a red carpet. But to Queen Latifah, she was the brightest star in her life. Born and raised in Newark, New Jersey, a place full of challenges for the Black community, Rita chose the path of teaching. She became an art teacher at Irvington High School. The heart of an educator and the sensitivity of an artist were etched deep into Queen Latifah's character from a very young age. Latifah, whose real name is Dana Elaine Owens, often recalled that her mother was the first person who gave her a stage. Rita encouraged her to recite poetry rap and try her hand at acting. She didn't just push her daughter into the spotlight. She stood in the crowd, eyes gleaming, cheering on every shaky step of her teenage girl. "My mother was my best friend, my greatest anchor. Every victory I've had has her fingerprints on it," Latifah once confessed in an interview. For Latifah, Rita didn't just teach skills, she taught a philosophy of life. Hold your head high, even when the world looks at you with disdain. As a Black woman in a society still steeped in prejudice, Rita knew too well the sting of being underestimated, dismissed, and looked down upon. That's why she instilled in her daughter an inner strength to walk tall, unapologetic for her very existence. It's no exaggeration to say that without Rita Owens, there would be no Queen Latifah as we know her today. Rita was the quiet foundation, the unseen backlight that illuminated Queen, on stage and on screen, helping her shine brighter than ever. The storm called heart disease. Rita Owens's life took a harsh turn in 2004 when she was diagnosed with congestive heart failure, a condition where the heart can no longer pump enough blood through the body, leaving her exhausted, short of breath, and constantly living under the shadow of death. For an art teacher once used to an active rhythm of life, it was a cruel sentence. At that time, Queen Latifah was at the height of her career in film music and even hosting her own talk show. Suddenly, she was forced to face a devastating truth. The most important woman in her life was quietly battling death itself. Pain turned into strength. Latifah didn't choose to hire a full-time nurse like so many other celebrities. She decided that she herself would take care of her mother. In many interviews, Queen recalled how her house was transformed into a mini care center, with medication heart monitors and oxygen tanks right there in the living room. Many nights after long hours of filming or recording in the studio, Queen would rush home quietly, giving her mother medicine, preparing meals exactly as the doctors prescribed. In those moments, the powerful hip-hop queen became just a small daughter sitting by her mother's bedside. It was a daily battle, Latifah once told Good Morning America. "Every morning, I woke up not knowing what the day would bring. But my mother was a warrior, and I was going to fight right alongside her. The inevitable end." On March 21, 2018, the final storm struck. Rita Owens passed away in the arms of Queen Latifah. The artist released a statement. "She left this world in love, leaving behind light and love that I will carry with me forever." The world was shaken. But for Latifah, it was a pain beyond words. A mother, a teacher, a friend, a hero. Now all of that remained only in memory. A private funeral, the media void, and a storm of rumors. On March 27, 2018, the bells of Metropolitan Baptist Church in Newark tolled a final farewell. Inside the sanctuary was filled with white flowers, incense smoke, and prayers for Rita Owens. It was meant to be a quiet, intimate service, true to the humble way she had lived her life. The family's obituary made it clear. Visitation from 4:00 p.m. to 9:00 p.m. at Metropolitan Baptist Church. Funeral service and interment private. Just that single word private changed everything. Private meant no public guest list, no press, no paparazzi, no cameras crowding the church gates. All the outside world was left with was absolute silence. And in the age of social media, where everything demands proof in pictures, that silence became the spark that lit the fuse. The strange disappearance of Living Single right after the funeral, fans immediately began to ask, where were the familiar faces of Living Single? They weren't just co-stars. To viewers, Erica Alexander, Kim Coles, Kim Fields, T.C. Carson, and John Henton were Queen Latifah's second family. Throughout the 1990s, they lived, laughed, and cried together on screen. A groundbreaking portrait of Black friendship never before seen in American sitcoms. And yet, at the most painful moment of Latifah's life, the public saw none of them by her side. No photos, no videos, no official reports confirming their presence. Silence. Complete silence. And that silence became a storm. In the world of entertainment, absence can sometimes be more explosive than presence. This time, silence turned into a weapon fueling wave after wave of conspiracy theories. Did the Living Single cast boycott the funeral? Was there hidden tension between Queen Latifah and her co-stars? T.C. Carson was pushed off the show. Did he cut ties for good? On Twitter, hashtags quietly started trending. Gossip blogs ran with the headline, "Where was the Living Single cast?" Fan forums dug up old backstage conflicts, Kim Coles facing body-shaming Carson, calling out Warner Brothers for favoring Friends, and claimed these wounds had never healed. But the truth wasn't so simple. Amid the storm of rumors, a few signs pointed in the opposite direction. Erica Alexander posted on Twitter, "Godspeed, gorgeous Rita. Zo you Dana." A short but powerful farewell. Dana was Queen Latifah's real name. Proof that their bond went far beyond mere colleagues. Kim Coles shared a long Facebook post recalling how the entire cast used to be welcomed into the Owens home. Rita would sit with them for hours, turning her house into a place of warmth and togetherness. Coles wrote that Rita always made everyone feel embraced and at home. These gestures proved the cast wasn't cold or distant toward Queen Latifah or her mother. Yet for a public conditioned to see it, to believe it, words on a screen weren't enough to quiet the doubts. The void became fertile ground for conspiracy. Living Single, once celebrated as the ultimate TV family, suddenly became the subject of a haunting question. Had that family truly fallen apart once the camera stopped rolling? And that very question became the cliffhanger driving the public to dig through decades of past scandals, hidden tensions, and unspoken shadows, desperate for answers. Living Single: Light and Shadows, a 1990s icon. In August 1993, Fox premiered Living Single. At a time when American television was dominated by white-led sitcoms like Seinfeld, and before Friends even existed, this show made an immediate impact. 6 young Black friends living together in Brooklyn, New York, navigating love careers and friendship with humor and heart. Queen Latifah starred as Khadijah James, a strong-minded journalist and founder of Flavor magazine, the kind of independent Black female character rarely seen on American TV at the time. Alongside her was a stellar cast: Erica Alexander as Maxine Shaw, the sharp-witted attorney; Kim Fields as Regine Hunter, the ambitious fashionista; Kim Coles as Sinclair, the sweet and lovable cousin; T.C. Carson as Kyle, the sophisticated gentleman; and John Henton as Overton, the kind-hearted handyman. From its very first season, Living Single shot to the top of Fox's ratings, becoming the #1 sitcom among Black audiences. For many, it wasn't just television, it was a mirror, a reflection of young Black adults learning how to assert themselves in a society full of barriers. Over its 5-year run, 1993-1998, the series delivered countless classic episodes. Maxine caught in a love triangle, the fiery clashes between Kyle and Max, Sinclair's innocent antics sparking endless laughter. Critics praised the show for putting Black women at the center of the story, not on the sidelines. Entertainment Weekly even called Living Single a new definition of the 1990s sitcom. For Queen Latifah, this role wasn't just another acting credit, it was the launchpad that turned her into a multi-talented star, rapper, singer, film actress, talk show host. Cultural scholars later noted that without Living Single, there would be no Girlfriends, no Insecure, and no wave of black-led sitcoms that followed. But the brighter the light, the longer the shadow. Behind the laughter lay unspoken tensions, imbalances, and the deep inequities of the studio system. T.C. Carson's exit, the spark called Friends. In the early 1990s, Living Single was seen as a trailblazing sitcom. But just 1 year later, Friends premiered also about 6 young people living in New York, sharing apartments, falling in love, arguing, and building careers. What stung the Living Single cast wasn't just the near-identical formula, but how Warner Brothers treated the two shows. While Friends received massive budgets, aggressive marketing, and global exposure, Living Single was boxed in as nothing more than a sitcom for black audiences. T.C. Carson, who played Kyle Barker, the suave, witty, and charming gentleman, was the first to push back. In several meetings, he openly criticized Warner Brothers for neglecting Living Single and demanded fair treatment for the show. Carson never hid his frustration. In a later interview, he recalled, "They gave us very little but poured all their resources into Friends. I spoke up, and I paid the price." That statement was a bitter confession. Carson knew Hollywood rarely protected those who dared to speak out, but he never imagined the cost would be so high being written out of the series after season 4, just as Kyle had become a fan favorite. His sudden disappearance stunned audiences. On screen, Kyle was written off as leaving New York for a new job. But sharp-eyed fans knew the storyline was just a cover, and the truth was a purge behind the scenes. An outraged fan base. For black audiences, Carson's firing was living proof of injustice. Living Single had been celebrated as a second family, yet now a glaring crack had appeared, one member exiled simply for speaking the truth. Fans interpreted the incident as a harsh reality check. Sitcoms might deliver laughter on screen, but behind the scenes, they were battlegrounds where raising your voice could cost you your career. Some black newspapers at the time even asked bluntly, was Living Single truly as united as it seemed? A scar that never healed. Carson would go on to share his story in many interviews. He made it clear, "I had no issues with my castmates. We loved each other. The studio was the problem. I was pushed out because I spoke up." Those words only added more drama, underscoring the tension between the cast and the studio. The actors may have been close, but Carson's removal left a scar. Living Single was no longer an unbroken family. And for fans, that scar never faded. So when news of Rita Owens' funeral spread and the Living Single cast wasn't publicly seen, memories of Carson's exit resurfaced. Twitter and Reddit quickly pieced the narratives together. Carson was fired. Maybe he still holds a grudge, that's why he didn't go. If one member was already pushed out, maybe they were never truly close. The TV family was just an illusion. In reality, there's no evidence that Carson or any of the cast deliberately stayed away. The private nature of the service excluded the media entirely, and Carson himself has never spoken on the matter. But in the public's mind, the T.C. Carson firing became the perfect puzzle piece to legitimize a conspiracy. That Living Single was never really a family after all. From 1998, when Carson vanished from Living Single to Rita Owens' funeral in 2018, the story never lost its sting. T.C. Carson's removal from Living Single carved a permanent scar, a stark reminder that a sitcom family could unravel the moment the studio pulled the strings. But Carson was not the only one who would feel the harsh bite of life behind the camera. Kim Coles and the weight of appearance. Sinclair, the innocent smile hiding tears. Kim Coles played Sinclair James, the sweet, naive cousin who always brought lighthearted laughter to Living Single. Her character quickly became the show's comic soul, a lovable, slightly quirky young woman whose honesty and innocence endeared her to audiences. But behind that cheerful smile on screen was an invisible weight Coles had to carry her appearance. In later interviews, Coles revealed that from the very first season, producers and writers scrutinized her body. They pressured her to lose weight. They suggested inserting lines into scripts that poked fun at her size. For a black actress desperate to be recognized for her talent, it felt like a knife in the back. When laughter turned into a weapon, fat jokes lines written to get cheap laughs at the expense of body size were a staple of 1990s sitcoms. But for Kim Coles, they were deeply offensive. Sinclair was loved for her pure heart and joyful spirit. Why reduce her to a punchline about her body? Coles recalled, "I felt forced into a stereotype. They wanted to turn my body into the joke. But I am an actress, not a punchline." This tension sparked quiet debates behind the scenes. And it was there that Queen Latifah, who played Khadijah, stepped in to protect her co-star. According to Coles, Latifah firmly opposed adding fat jokes to the script. Queen Latifah, the silent shield. The story highlighted the complicated dynamics within the cast. On one hand, they were close and defended one another. Latifah, with her status as both a cast member and a major star, became a shield sparing Coles from humiliation. On the other hand, the very fact that Latifah had to intervene proved the pressure from producers was real, and that Coles had been placed in a vulnerable, painful position. Years later, Coles admitted those experiences left lasting scars. Even with supportive colleagues, she could never fully escape the feeling of being judged for her body rather than her talent, a fracture that never fully healed. For audiences, Living Single was carefree laughter. But for Coles, every episode could feel like an internal battle between giving Sinclair her smile and hiding the pain of real-life body shaming. Her struggle never exploded into a scandal like Carson's, but it gnawed away silently. And it was that silence which made fans looking back at Rita Owens' funeral in 2018 more willing to believe conspiracy theories. Maybe they weren't as close as they seemed. Maybe behind the smiles, there was distance. When Kim Coles posted a heartfelt condolence on Facebook after Rita's passing, many fans were touched. Yet others questioned, if she was truly close, why wasn't she at the funeral? Were there wounds that never healed? Living Single versus Friends. The silent battle and the bitterness. The brutal truth in numbers. In 1993, when Living Single premiered, it averaged more than 10 million viewers per episode. An impressive feat for a brand new sitcom, especially airing on Fox, which was still a young network at the time. By the end of its first season, the series had already become Fox's top-rated show among Black audiences ages 18 to 34. But when Friends debuted in 1994 on NBC, the story shifted. Friends was placed in the coveted Thursday night primetime block must-see TV, where tens of millions of viewers were already loyal to NBC. The result, within just 2 seasons, Friends was pulling in 25 million viewers per episode, double Living Single's audience. Even more staggering was the paycheck gap. By the show's final season, each member of the Friends cast was making $1 million per episode. Meanwhile, according to Erica Alexander, no one on Living Single ever came close to that number, not even a fraction of it. The Golden Child and the Forgotten One. In an interview with The Breakfast Club, T.C. Carson admitted, "We saw it clearly. Warner Brothers gave everything to Friends. The money, the scripts, the promotion, even sending them on international tours. And us. We got nothing. Fox simply didn't have NBC's marketing power." But what truly infuriated the cast was this: Warner Brothers, the same studio that produced both shows, blatantly treated Friends as the golden child while pushing Living Single aside as the forgotten one. Kim Coles bitterly remembered, "We knew we were being sidelined. We even had to sit in meetings and hear comparisons like, why can't we have a normal show like Friends?" Erica Alexander's memory. "We were erased from history." Erica Alexander, who played attorney Maxine Shaw, has spoken out many times about this injustice. In 2018, she was blunt: Living Single was the blueprint. Friends was just the whitewashed, well-funded version. But who got the credit? Not us. We were erased from history. Alexander explained that for years, whenever people talked about 1990s ensemble sitcoms, the public only remembered Friends. Very few even knew Living Single had existed before it. For her, it wasn't just unfair to the cast, it was a cultural erasure of Black storytelling in the entertainment industry. The most painful part, she said, was watching Friends get praised for things we had already done. The bitterness was never about Friends being successful. It was about the fact that everything Friends was celebrated for Living Single had already done first, yet never received the recognition. Living Single tackled careers, love, friendship, even class conflict, all through the lens of young Black professionals. But instead of being hailed as groundbreaking, the show was pigeonholed as just for Black audiences. Meanwhile, Friends, with nearly identical themes, was hailed as a universal portrait of 1990s American youth. a hidden battle that scarred the cast. This disparity weighed heavily on the living single cast. T.C. Carson chose to fight and was pushed out. Kim Coles endured body shaming. Erica Alexander felt erased from cultural memory. It created a quiet sense of resignation among them. They still loved one another, but deep down, everyone understood. We will never be given our due. So when fans looked back at Rita Owens' funeral in 2018 and saw no public images of the cast, they immediately connected the dots. If Hollywood abandoned them, maybe they abandoned each other too. Friends, a billion-dollar legacy. Living single, a forgotten shadow. To this day, Friends generates more than $1 billion a year for Warner Brothers through syndication streaming and merchandise. Meanwhile, Living Single is almost invisible on major platforms, airing only in limited reruns on niche networks for Black audiences. The gap wasn't just about money, it was about cultural status, what lived on in the public memory. And that made the Living Single missing at the funeral scandal even easier to spread. Audiences had long been conditioned to see the show as forgotten, so they readily believed the idea that its cast wasn't really a family. The bitterness of being overshadowed by Friends seemed to have ended with the 1990s. But in Hollywood, memories never stay buried. 2 decades later, one offhand remark would rip open the wound all over again. The off-screen drama, David Schwimmer versus Erica Alexander, an offhand comment that lit a fire. In 2020, more than 20 years after Friends ended, David Schwimmer, best known as Ross Geller, gave an interview to The Guardian. Reflecting on the show's legacy, he casually remarked, "Maybe there should be an all-black Friends or an all-Asian Friends." To many white readers, it seemed like a progressive comment, but to communities of color, it was a dagger to the heart. Living Single had already done that in 1993 and been erased from the cultural conversation for decades. Erica Alexander fires back. Erica Alexander. The sharp-witted attorney Maxine Shaw on Living Single did not stay silent. She clapped back on Twitter with biting sarcasm. Living Single already existed. Since 1993. 6 Black Friends in Brooklyn. We did that, my friend. You just didn't know. Her response went viral. The hashtag #LivingSingle trended on Twitter. Fans flooded social media, reigniting outrage over the injustice. A white show was celebrated, while its black predecessor was forgotten. The apology call facing backlash. Schwimmer personally reached out to Erica Alexander to apologize. She later recalled, "He was sincere. I accepted his apology." But the problem isn't David Schwimmer. The problem is the entire system that erased Living Single from cultural memory. That moment reminded everyone that the Living Single cast hadn't just been overlooked in the 1990s. Even in the 2020s, they were still fighting to have their legacy recognized. Public uproar. Living Single revived. Ironically, Schwimmer's slip became an opportunity. For a week straight, U.S. media revisited Living Single. Rolling Stone called it the hidden trailblazer of sitcoms. Vulture ran a feature titled Living Single Did It First. A new generation of fans sought out the series on Hulu, boosting its streaming numbers. It was one of the rare moments in nearly 30 years that Living Single was pushed back into the spotlight. But with that spotlight came all the old pain, favoritism, backstage fractures, and the sense of being erased from history. Seeing Erica Alexander's fury only reinforced what many suspected. The Living Single cast still carried scars that had never fully healed, which is why the theory that they didn't attend Rita Owens' funeral seemed so believable to the public. The 2018 funeral ended in silence, leaving Queen Latifah and the Owens family to grieve in private. But for the public, that silence hardened into a lasting crack. Then just a few years later, something unexpected happened. The cast of Living Single reunited. They appeared together, laughing, reminiscing, even declaring, "We're like a family." And those reunions became living proof, shattering the rumors of division. Reunion and the truth about the cast's friendship reunions that reignited memories. In one recorded reunion, Erica Alexander shared a heartfelt memory. "We weren't just colleagues. We shared dinners, we cried together backstage. That bond was real." Queen Latifah smiled and nodded in agreement. The moment quickly spread across social media, becoming living proof that the living single family had never truly broken apart. Kim Coles revealed a hilarious yet touching detail that made audiences laugh through their tears. "We were so close. Even our cycles synced." The light-hearted confession was perhaps the most intimate proof of true friendship off-screen. It wasn't a PR soundbite, but a lived memory. Something that only happens when a group of women work live and grow together for years, like a real family. Fans who heard it laughed, but also felt a warm reassurance. After all the rumors and scandals, the living single cast still shared a closeness too natural to fake. The bond between Queen Latifah and Erika Alexander was highlighted most often. Their careers took them down very different paths. Latifah becoming a global superstar, Alexander diving into activism and politics. But they remained in touch, always supporting each other's projects. Erika once said Dana Latifah's real name has always been the sister I can call anytime. Her success never created distance between us. Latifah, in turn, has often expressed her excitement at the idea of a living single reboot. It hasn't materialized, but the fact that both women openly dream about it reassured fans that their friendship remained strong. Moments that silenced the rumors. The reunions of 2024-2025 weren't just nostalgic events. They were undeniable evidence that destroyed the conspiracy theories. When the public asked why weren't they at Rita Owens' funeral, the answer was right there in the images of them sitting together on stage, holding hands, laughing after more than 30 years. If there had truly been fractures, could they have been that natural, that joyful? Kim Fields once said, "Living single wasn't just a job, it was family. And family doesn't disappear because of one silent moment." Her words pierced through the fog of rumors, delivering a clear message their friendship never ended. It just expressed itself differently. Rita Owens' 2018 funeral had no public images of the living single cast. The public was shocked, and conspiracy theories filled the void. But the truth was simple. The funeral was private, intimate, and that was the Owens family's choice. No pictures didn't mean a fractured family. Erika, Alexander, Kim Coles, and others had already spoken in their own ways. Through heartfelt posts, through memories of Rita. They didn't need front-page coverage to prove their bond. Looking back, the real question was never whether they showed up at a single ceremony. The truth lies in the legacy Rita Owens, Queen Latifah, and living single left behind. A generation of Black viewers finally seeing themselves on television. A friendship that endured for decades, surviving scandals, injustice, and stereotypes, and proof that the deepest values don't always need to be displayed in front of cameras. Queen Latifah once said, "My mother taught me that love doesn't always need to be proven. It lives in every action, every memory, every relationship we keep alive."